It's time to take a deep breath and quiet the mind. Every breath and thought was energy that brought us to our experience in this moment. We are going to exercise our beliefs in the possible. We will bend and create our own realities. Let's explore how to square our recovery and thrive in life. I welcome you to Recovery Squared Radio with your host, Steve Wofford.
Hello, I have Erin Hickok here with me, and we're up in Austin, Texas. And I wanted her to be on this podcast because she teaches tapping. I'm going to let her do most of the explaining, but Erin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about what you do?
Sure. So I work with people who are processing negative thought patterns or maybe phobias, traumas, anxieties, and I help them transform those old stuck emotions and beliefs into personal power and action. It's a really fun technique that I learned just about 2 years ago, and I used a lot in my life and felt so just inspired by what had happened in my life. And so I've really been on a mission to share this tool and techniques with other people.
That's awesome. So I'm really looking forward to this interview because some of the techniques that tapping covers have been, many of the things Erin mentioned, but also addictions and a host of other problems that you can resolve with tapping. And so I'm looking forward to learning more about it. So Erin, why don't you tell me a little bit what brought you into this type of work? Why tapping?
Yeah, so I'd heard of tapping previously, EFT, also people call it emotional freedom techniques. And I had done a couple little sessions, a group session, an individual session, and thought it was cool, but didn't pay it much attention until about 2 years ago. And I had an incident where I was sexually assaulted. And this was hugely traumatic for me in my life, but I was downplaying it. I was numbing myself out, and I was basically ignoring the hurt and the feelings that came with that kind of trauma. And so after about a week of numbing myself, I ran into a friend of mine at an ecstatic dance, and she started tapping on me and helping me express and move extreme rage. Steve, I've never felt so full of rage in my entire life. And I felt like I was a different person. I felt out of control. I didn't know what to do with this emotion. And within 20 minutes, I went from completely full of rage and just lost to being back in my body, to smiling, and to dancing again. And I knew that with 20 minutes to move something that big, this is something that I needed to look into and to keep going as a practice in my own life.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. I think a lot of times we minimize things that happen to us. We either just want to put them in a black hole. We don't want to, from a conscious level, we either minimize or, that didn't hurt us, but all that stuff gets stored in our bodies and our subconscious, and that pain doesn't go away. And I'm surprised you found it after a week. I mean, I know I went through decades of drug addictions and depression, and it wasn't a week. So one of the reasons this show exists is to showcase tools like this to get you unstuck from where you're at, so you have an alternative to, the numbing yourself out like you struggle with, and I most certainly struggled with it for far too long. So let's go in a little bit on how the tool works.
Sure, Steve. So basically what we're doing is bringing love and acceptance.
Love that.
I know, right? It's really simple, but the format, it helps us bring up and acknowledge what is for us, what's true for us. And, in that moment when I really tapped that time at ecstatic dance, I didn't even have the awareness that I was full of rage. I was so full of rage, I couldn't even see straight. And so it helps us get real and acknowledge what's really going on. And then we bring compassion, love, and acceptance to ourselves in that situation first. and then extend that out and bringing forgiveness and compassion to any of the potential perpetrators of the situation or other people that we might blame, even if it doesn't make sense for us to blame, society or this person. We might have that as a pattern. And so it helps us bring that forgiveness to the other after we bring forgiveness to ourselves. And then once we've accepted and brought love to the situation, then we can actually program what it is that we want. We can transform those negative thoughts, those negative emotions that we're not enjoying to personal power in taking action and moving forward. And the way that tapping works, which is really cool, is that it combines the emotions and the physical body and also your thoughts. These things are all intertwined. And so when we use tapping, we actually release a chemical in the brain. Your listeners, I'm sure, know oxytocin, the love drug. It's this chemical that gets released in your brain. And one of the things, besides having you feel really good, is that it allows your brain to become more plastic. That means more malleable. And so what we do is we take those incidences of trauma, and by bringing love and awareness, conscious awareness to it, and loving forgiveness to it, we actually resave that pattern in our brain in a more loving way. So that way it's not showing up as a fear or as some other negative emotion in our day-to-day lives. We've already resolved it and released it from our bodies.
I love that. I got chills listening to that because I'm so into similar types of modalities that do similar types of things. And I just love learning about these different tools and spreading them so that other people can use them. And because there's nothing greater than having different tools for different things. And sometimes one tool might get you to one place, but maybe you need more of a tool in another place. And so, I love learning about this stuff. So this is kind of hard to do on audio, but like tapping, right? So you're tapping. What does tapping mean? What are you tapping? And how does that, I get the reprogramming and all that, but actually how, from your body, how does that work?
That's a great question. So what we're doing, I'm sure probably your listeners have heard about acupuncture before. So acupuncture works by stimulating different little points along our meridian system, essentially the electrical circuitry of our body. And so when we tap, we hit on particular places on the body and we send little pulses of energy in that. Now, when we bring our conscious awareness and thought patterns to that, we're able to move this energy, old stagnant energy that's got stuck in the body. And you probably heard, if you have some sort of trauma, there's some sort of unacknowledged thing, and that gets trapped in our body as energy in our system. And so by using the different tapping points, I use a very thorough system where I'm tapping on my head, on my face, my hands, and my chest. And with that, we go through each of the meridians, flushing it with energy and love. And so we're able to actually process these old stagnant energies and really keep the flow going.
I love that. When you talk about energies being stored in the body, one of the problems I have is I have TMJ that flares up from time to time. And so, I'm very interested in hearing about that. So what does that look like for someone who comes in me to work with you? What's that going to do? And how does that work, in my case, using me as an example?
So if you're talking about physical symptom, something like TMJ, the very first thing that pops to my mind is, what are you frustrated about? What's got you frustrated? Where are you feeling stuck? That's the sense that I kind of get. You're
right. It's when I'm frustrated, I go to bed stressed, and I can consciously deal with it. But for whatever reason, when I go to sleep, it comes back, usually in the morning. If I wake up in the middle of the night, it's normally in my waking hours, and I'm not sure where that comes from, but
yeah, so I would do two different approaches with that using the EFT. So one is in preparation before you going to bed, doing some exercises to help get you in a more calm and meditative space and release that stress. The other piece that I would do is I would use tapping on a weekly basis or maybe with individual sessions to get to the bottom and the root of what it is that's causing you these frustrations. And what I'd really pay attention to, Steve, is looking at, what does this remind you of? Where has this happened before? Like then you actually dig down into the past. You find some sort of core belief or core experience that supported some sort of belief and resolve that issue in the past so it doesn't need to keep on showing up in the present.
Yeah, that's interesting. This particular problem's been years and years of digging, and I've done a lot to minimize the pain, but in some ways it's not nearly as bad, but I still know it's there. And so I know I need to keep digging. And to be perfectly honest with you, that energy that gets stored in that pain, it caused me to change absolutely everything about myself. Because I originally changed my diet. I thought, oh, well, my jaw hurts because like wake up every morning with a headache. I didn't even know it was from a tense jaw. I thought it was maybe my diet. And then I got rid of the toxic marriage I was in, still had it. And then I was working with a chiropractor and massage therapist and, mindfulness, meditation, all that, but it's still there. And so I'm really interested in digging into that. So let's do this. So I have a court date coming up in a week, right? And I think anyone can probably relate to the feelings of going through any sort of legal trouble, especially ones that take longer, tend to be a little bit more stressful. And so one of the things when I have those thoughts that come in, and I have a pretty good toolkit on how to deal with those, but I'm always looking for more. So how could I deal with those anxieties, or more even specifically when I'm in court? How could I, I'm on the stand and I'm getting grilled by, my ex's attorney, and it's not a very fun thing to do. So what are some tools that I could walk away with today that would help me go through something like that?
That's a great question, Steve. And you've just nailed why I love this tool so much, because you can take it anywhere you bring your hands.
Love it.
You can do this. So one of the beautiful things about doing this is you can tap. Actually, just show me your wrist. We'll just try it.
My wrist is up in the air right now.
All right. Excellent. Now use your other 3 middle fingers and tap just across the wrist bone and take a nice big deep breath. Exactly. So this is one tapping point. We're going to move through the ones just on the hand so you can kind of get a sense of how it works. And what we're going to do is we'll make statements, first starting with statements about the negative feelings that we're having, and then moving on more to more affirmative type statements. Now, before we do this, I just want to say there's a lot of followers of like law of attraction kind of stuff out there. And I'm totally into that. But one of the things that pops up for people is I'm afraid if I say the thing that I'm scared of, that I'm going to attract more of that into my life. So I just want to hit on that right now for your listeners. If you're already having these negative thought patterns, if you're already thinking these things, you're actually going to help eliminate them by bringing light to them. You're not creating more of it. You're acknowledging what's there and bringing love to that.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. So again, we're going to raise our hand and we're going to tap with our 3 middle fingers right across the inside of your wrist bone, right at the base of the palm of your hand. The next thing that we're going to do, this is super important. It'll help you in life all the time. When you're releasing, you take a big deep breath and big sigh. So when you're releasing, especially really powerful emotion, really charged emotion, you want to have a very relaxed jaw, and you want to ideally be able to make some sound upon the exhale. That's going to help you release that stored energy a lot faster than trying to hold it back or hold it in. So when you're on the stand, if you're doing this, I would just recommend deep breaths and a big
with the tap?
With the tap, exactly.
Okay.
So you'll continue tapping. We'll say some words, and then in between every couple statements that we make, you're going to take another big deep breath and a big sigh.
Okay, so this is in addition, because how I deal with this sort of situation is a lot of breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have to be very conscious of it, because I don't know what it is when you're in stressful states, your body kind of wants to shut down and not breathe, and you want to kind of hunch over and you want to protect yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but I can kind of see how just the physical movement of tapping is a way to maybe put your body in a relaxed state a little bit more, because sometimes you're breathing, you can trick yourself into like you're just, taking the minimum of a breath, right? But you're not really.
Exactly.
But I could see this can be kind of, you're actually putting your body, it's like almost meditating with your body, kind of like yoga, but in a very small way.
Yes.
With acupuncture points.
Exactly. It's focused attention on those spots on the body. And then the deep breath, especially the exhale, is allowing us to release that energy and that tension that's existing in the body. And then coupled with you tapping on your body, this is actually sending pulsations of energy through your meridian pathways, which actually clear out even more stagnant energy. So one other thing for listeners, if you ever do practice EFT, there's a thing called off-gassing. So Steve, if you burp or have like tingling sensations in your body, this is totally normal to be able to feel these things as you're moving energy in your body. So just a heads up about that.
It's either that or the Topo Chico. I'm not sure which it is.
It could be either. I'm a burper myself. I tend to burp and yawn.
I love yawning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it clears, releases. So again, we're going to be at the base of our wrist, just underneath our palm. Make big deep breath. And then you repeat after me. Even though I have this issue.
Even though I have this issue.
I feel really what about this?
I feel really anxious about this.
I feel really anxious about this. Big deep breath. Go ahead and tap. If you turn your thumb so it's at the top, you're going to tap right on the thumbnail on the outside of the thumb. Even though I feel really anxious about this, I'm still open to loving and accepting myself.
Even though I feel really anxious about this, I'm really open to loving and accepting myself.
Great. Big deep breath. Big sigh. This anxiety. This anxiety is at a level, so rate it, just kind of guess from 1 to 10 right now.
This anxiety is a 5.
This anxiety is at a level 5 right now.
This anxiety is a level 5 right now.
Big deep breath. You might notice that it even takes the edge off of that number 5 just by acknowledging that that's where you're at right now. But if it doesn't, no worries.
Totally.
We'll do another round and help decrease that. So now we're going to tap on the top of the pointer finger by the fingernail. We're going to take another big deep breath. This anxiety. I have a court date coming up. And I feel really anxious. Big deep breath. Go to the top of the middle finger, right by the fingernail again. Even though I have all this anxiety, I'm still open to loving and accepting myself. Nice big deep breath. This one's a little tricky. We're going to flip to the ring finger, but we're going to go to the bottom of the ring finger. This anxiety about this court date. I feel really scared. And let yourself feel that fear. Feel that fear. Where do you feel that in your body?
The stomach.
I feel this fear in my stomach. This anxiety. I feel scared. I don't know what's going to happen. Big deep breath. Then back to the top of the pinky finger, right on top of the fingernail there. Even though I have all this anxiety. And I don't know what's going to happen. I still love and accept myself. I love and accept myself. Big deep breath. You tap on the karate chop point. It's where if you were to karate chop some wood,
nice.
Right in the middle of the palm there. And you might notice on this one, I'm noticing that I feel this one a bit more. It's a little tender.
Mm-hmm.
If you do feel any points in your body that do feel a little more tender, go ahead and keep tapping on it and just stay on that point a little bit longer. It just means there's some stagnant energy there that wants to move.
Mm-hmm.
So what other feelings do you have, Steve, besides anxiety and fear around this court date?
None, really. I mean, at the point I might have more.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So even though I have this fear and anxiety,
I'm
open to the possibility
of
this working out for my highest good and the highest good of all those involved. Does that feel true for you?
Yeah.
Awesome. So some people, if we're battling something and maybe we haven't done as much work, if we say the affirmative statement, it might not ring true for us.
Right.
So if that's true for you when you're practicing, you would bring in a little bit more openness. Like instead of saying, I deeply love and acknowledge myself, you might say, I'm open to loving myself someday.
Right.
You'll adjust it to what suits you in that moment.
Love it.
Yeah. So now instead of tapping on the hands, we're going to take both of our hands and tap in circles around our chest. So getting the middle of the chest, the sides of the chest. Even though I have this issue.
Even though I have this
court date coming up. I still love and accept myself. I feel really anxious. Excellent. So now we're going to tap the rib cage at the bottom, right where your ribs point out the most. You're going to tap on there. This one I feel a lot more too, so I'm going to tap a little extra here. Even though I feel so anxious. My anxiousness is at a level 0. You're at a level 0 right now. Awesome. Excellent. So now when you're at a level 0 or anything like a 3, 3.5 and lower, that's when you can start putting on the positive programming. That's when you can start envisioning the possibility for what it is that you really want to create and what you want to happen. But first, before we go to that, I know you're at a level 0, but I'm going to just take our listeners through bringing some love and compassion and forgiveness for everyone involved.
Awesome.
So repeat after me, change it to suit what suits you. I feel frustrated that I have to go through this. Part of me says this is not fair. That this should be fixed already. Big deep breath. I don't want to have to go to court. No way. Can't we resolve this elsewhere?
I know, right?
Yes, you're feeling that one. I wish we could resolve this another way. Even though court is not my ideal option. I'm open to the possibility. Of moving forward.
I'm open to the possibility of moving forward.
I'm open to the possibility of forgiveness for everyone involved. Big deep breath. So we're going to switch spots. We're going to cross our arms and tap at the side seam of our body, level with our nipple, and right at the side seam.
Or
you can alternate or do both at the same time, whichever you like. Just make sure that it's a nice, gentle tap. Sometimes when we're frustrated, we kind of like beat ourselves up with our tapping.
Right.
That's it's safe for me to relax now.
Awesome.
So we're tapping this spot and a nice big deep breath. I'm open to the possibility. Of forgiveness for everyone involved. I'm open to the possibility. Of moving forward with ease and grace. How did that feel for you?
Awesome.
Yeah?
Love it.
I felt when I said that, I felt some waves of energy move up and down my back.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now what I would do at the end of a session is I would have us tap all over our body, not any particular points, just our whole body, and repeat affirmations that feel really good to us. So acknowledging yourself and celebrating yourself. And that's how we would conclude a session. Now that was a bit quicker than a standard session that I would do. Usually those would be probably about 20, 45 minutes, maybe 90 minutes if it was like a really deep session.
Yeah.
But a key thing that we did is we tracked like where you were at. You were at a 5 and then you went down to a 0.
Right.
So you can see it moves really, really fast. And you have other tools that you've been using. You mentioned, Steve. One of the cool things about this modality is that you can combine it with your other tools. It's a great complementary tool to be using. If you have other affirmations that you're really wanting to be using, you can weave those into the language as you tap on your body.
I totally love this because it reminds me of, yoga But you can't always do yoga in your bed or whatever. You got to go to the studio. And so this is kind of a way to get into your body and help process some of that energy. And a lot of it, most of the times in the past, I used my breath. But I can see how this is kind of combining some of this, like the forgiveness framework I'm doing it. It's how you reframe where you're at. You get to see their perspective and you forgive out of love and all those sorts of things. So I'm like so into this. This is awesome. So Erin, thank you so much for this. I have one last question for you. If you had one thing to square your recovery, what would that be?
For me, it's the willingness to use this tool in the moment. It is there for me all the time, and it's a matter of me being willing to and remembering to use it. So this is really great for that moment when I'm stressed out. I can use it in traffic, if I'm feeling stressed out in traffic. But it's also something that's amazing to use to get myself psyched up and ready for something. So, I can see your face now compared to when you were talking earlier about your court date, and I can see that you're more relaxed. I can see that you're more lit up. It's a really, really great multiplier. Like when you talk about recovery squared, it's a multiplier. It not only helps us clear out that stuff from the past, but it's an amplifier of the things that matter to us most.
I love that. I can say that I experienced, like right after the beginning of it, I already felt better, and I'm getting more chills more often, and it like feels good. I feel really into my body, and it works really quick. And to be honest, I don't think I'd have to go through that whole thing, because it took a few minutes, and maybe some of my breathing or other things are helping, but I'm like, the shifts happen pretty quick, just getting into your body.
Yes, absolutely.
And so I could imagine getting proficient at the tool. It's kind of like you can like boom, and it's like you're just off to the races, kind of like just taking a couple breaths. But I think it's like you said, remembering to do it, because I don't know about you, but sometimes I get stressed out and I'm just like, man, I don't feel like doing it. I'd rather just kind of get, we get stuck for a minute, and then it's like, wait a second. Okay, this is too hard. Okay, now I have to create space.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I love this. Thank you so much for not only the work you do, because Erin puts on different meetups to make this tool available to people. And so thank you so much for doing that work and just helping people heal and be better and more whole. So thank you for that. And thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you. Why don't you tell us how people can get in touch with you, and maybe if you want to put them in some other resources, but we'll put them all in the show notes.
Absolutely. So one thing I would just love to offer for all of your listeners, if you're interested in learning more about this, I've got an e-list, and I'll give the link for your listeners to sign up. It's, once a month email, very minimal, but it will kind of give you the basic tools so that you can try tapping out yourself. And what I'll send anyone who signs up for that e-list, I'll send you a free month to learn how to tap and tap on an online platform with me. I work with my teacher here in Austin, and I tap live with a whole community of people all around the world every Monday night. In addition to that, we also have a video library, so you can have someone walk you through a session and help you be able to work through the different pieces that you're individually working on and tailor it just for yourself. So I'll include that link on there, and then we'll give you a free month to check that out. If your listeners decide to keep it, it's just $36 a month, and I keep mine active. That's how I practice what I call great emotional hygiene. Is that every week I set aside this time for myself to help work on whatever's coming up. And that way I really stay ahead of the game, keep myself fresh and excited for the things that are coming up, and it keeps tapping on the top of my mind. So
I love that.
Yeah, I hope your listeners love it too, and hope that they get some transformation and some support. We'd love to give you a free month to experience that.
Awesome, Erin. Thank you so much again.
Thanks, Steve.
I'm so grateful for Erin sharing her story and how she helps other people in their healing process. I cannot say enough good things about her. I want to have her back on for her to share another project she's working on called Cards for Connection. I'll put a link in the show notes, as well as all the links we reference in this show. You can get to it by visiting recoverysquared.com/14. While you're visiting recoverysquared.com, be sure to click on the Access Now button, where you can sign up for the Recovery Squared Belief Guide. This guide is a pathway to complete transformation and helps us understand how a shift in beliefs can make us happier and truer to who we really are. I love you, and thank you for listening to Recovery Squared Radio. Thank Thank you for listening to Recovery Squared Radio. Please visit recoverysquared.com for access to resources on squaring your recovery. And as a reminder, act without doing. Create space between your thoughts and actions.